Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. First, I wanted to thank everyone for all the wonderful birthday wishes. I really appreciate them. It was a great day. I got to spend it in my cave. I paid for it a little bit later because I was kind of worn out, but it was absolutely worth it. So thank you. Die winners. First things first. I just put them somewhere. There are 3 dies. And I put them, oh, here we are, so that I wouldn't forget where they were. And in no particular order, I asked my son to be my random number generator. And I asked him to look through, and he immediately said, I'm not reading all those. I said, no, just pick 3 random names, because he doesn't know anything about my channel or people on it. And so he chose 3 names. And so Karen 3263 will get the layered owl. Karen Groff will get fresh daisies, and Karen Blume will get poppy stem. All right, so you may have noticed they're all Karen. And I said, Tim, after he told me, I'm like, Tim, they're all the same name. And he goes, Karen's had a bum rap for a couple of years. So there you go. He wanted to give Karen's a break. All right, I've had several questions, and I'm going to try to answer those really quickly. The first is the difference. People are asking me the difference. When I say Seth Apter Vintage Beeswax, it's not actually beeswax, it's embossing powder. And you use it with either, an embossing stamp pad or an embossing dabber or an embossing pen or any combination of those, but you use it like regular embossing powder. You stamp your image or color your image or get your image wet with ink, and then you use embossing powder and you heat set it. And that gives you a certain look, okay? It is not the same thing. One of the questions that I got a couple different people is, well, what are the different looks? Why do you use different products? Because they give you very different effects. The other one I use quite often is Nouveau Crystal Glaze, and many of you have seen me use it. But again, not the same thing as the Vintage Beeswax embossing powder. This you just put on and you can heat set it, but it bubbles a little bit and gets a little bit more matte, but just let it dry. And then the other thing is something I just recently tried, and that's organic vintage beeswax. And so I don't want people to think that I'm meaning this beeswax when I'm talking about Seth Apter Vintage Beeswax. And I have some samples here of how they are vastly, vastly different. All right. These were all colored with the same exact pens, and I'll try to bring them up close. And this one is topped with a Nouveau Crystal Glaze, and I'll try to angle it so it's not so glaring. Nouveau Crystal Glaze. And this one and this one, they're different papers. One's a thicker paper, one's a thinner paper. These are done with the Seth Apter Vintage Beeswax embossing powder. So that's done with this. Okay, and then the last one is done with the actual beeswax and baking paper and an iron. So you can see you get the same exact pens used to color these, just different paper. Actually, a couple of them are the same paper, but different paper with different effects. And that's why I use all of them, to get the different effects depending on what I'm looking for. All right, that's that done. Before I forget, I have 2 requests or favors or seeking help, basically. I mentioned it a while ago in a video, but this is the best green paper that I've used. Now, Tim Holtz has one that is green on one side and craft on the other, but it's really thick, like maybe 3 times as thick as this. This is a little heavier than copy paper, but not as thick as cardstock. If you have any idea of a resource for this, I will be your best friend. And I'm sorry about that glare. I'm not quite sure how to avoid it. It's pretty bad today. So if you've got an idea of where I can get this, I've tried Marco's Paper, I've tried Amazon, I've tried everything on Amazon. I'm forgetting everybody else. But anyway, I've tried a lot of sources. So if you know of a place, please feel free to share. I would love to hear it. That's my last sheet of that. All right, I use this washi tape, and it's it's not white, it's a grid. And the reason I use this, in the red one, I use these 90% of the time when I use washi, because they're non-directional. Whether I'm going vertically or horizontally, I can use this. And it's about 1/2 inch wide, so it's a great width. If you have any idea where I got these, please feel free to let me know, because I'm finding that a lot of times I need vertical washi and I have a lot of horizontal washi. So if you've got a source for that, that would be stellar. One of the viewers said that she had made a mistake in the Stamperia Forest book. And now I've been told it's Stamperia because somebody watched it and they're sure of it. But it could be Stamperia, but I believe it's Stamperia. So that's why I call it Stamperia. Anyway, what she had done is she'd glued down these flaps rather than leaving them as a gusset. Am I even in frame? Sorry about that. Rather than leaving them for the gusset. So when she'd glued the flaps down, and then if you close it like this, you don't have the depth or dimension that you need to put the inserts inside the little envelopes. This is just a mini version of the same thing. Well, what you can do, and you can do this anytime, anytime you've got a fold over type pocket and you need a little bit more space, you can just take a piece of cardstock. I usually do it at about, well, this one's just over 1/2 inch, and score it in the middle, and then make yourself your own gusset. And it's pretty straightforward. And again, you can use it just about any time. And then glue, that gives you a little bit extra dimension, a little bit extra, that's not even really dimension's the right word, a little extra width to put whatever, sorry, I'm out of the frame there, I'm scooting back, I apologize. For whatever you're making, it allows you a little bit more depth. Let me scoot that down. I clamp that for a moment just to get it to hold. And you do it on both sides, and then what happens is you give yourself more space in your pocket. So anytime you're needing more space than what you've got, you can, open your page or your envelope up and then add these little gussets. So there's that. Somebody asked me about when I do a tuck spot, here's a card. When I do a tuck spot, why I round the corner. Well, I don't know about everybody, but one, I do it because then I know it's a tuck and not a pocket. And two, when I'm gluing, so I'm going to flip it over to glue two sides because it's a tuck. Well, I know the rounded corner is the one I want open, so that means I'm going to place glue along the side that's not rounded in the bottom. So it's kind of like a little clue, basically. So there's that. Die storage. Another person asked me about these envelopes, or the way I store my dies. These are vent covers. You can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's. They're thin sheets, but they're magnetic. And the idea is you put them on your vents, I guess, to block a vent that you're not using or what have you. And they're easy to cut. I use my paper trimmer, but you can use scissors. And then I get these clear plastic sleeves. I get them through Amazon, but Simon Says Stamps and scrapbook.com have them, and I'm sure many other places do too. And then I just put my dies on the magnetic sheet and put it in. And somebody asked me, well, why I don't just use a binder or just use the magnetic sheet. Well, these aren't great examples because they're big dies, and so if they fall off, I'll find them. But a lot of dies have little itty bitty pieces, and most of the time it'll stay stuck to the magnetic sheet, but every once in a while it doesn't. And so if a little bitty die falls off, well, if I've got it in this plastic sleeve, then I know which die set it goes to. I mean, it's clear. So that's why I use the plastic sleeves. And I just find this easier. I've got that big wooden box. I just find it easier to flip through and get exactly what I want. A binder works great. Other people have just different systems, but that's what I use, and that's why I use it. All right. Thank you for my happy birthday wishes. And I got a pair of squirrel socks. So that totally made my day, made me laugh. And I also got an anonymous happy birthday mail, and thank you, thank you. It looks like some absolutely gorgeous Tim Holtz fabric and a card with no name on it, and this really cool paper. It's, I don't know, got this smooth, almost like waxy feel that's super stellar. And this vintage French lace is not that to die for. So whoever you are, anonymous person, thank you very, very much. I absolutely love it, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness. Okay, keeping moving. I had a lot of people comment about this booklet and how I was able to do it in a day. Now, I just want to make it clear. I didn't make the binder the same day I played on my birthday. All I did on my birthday was put the pages together. I'd already had them set up. You know, I'd had them cut in here and they were just all blank. And so the day that I played, I just put the sample pieces on. But the book itself, I had already done. I think I did that on January 1st or January 2nd. So, and Tracy's going to have more videos, she said. So that's awesome. Once she gets her desk back and she's able to film again, she's going to. So just an FYI there. I'm not all that crazy. Tracy's Facebook group is called the Foxy Crafters. Somebody had asked about that. Tracy's group is the Foxy Crafters. Journal sample pages, washi cream paper, wishes and treats. Okay, another question I got a lot is the ink boxes. Where did I get them? Do I still make them? Will I sell them? Are they in my Etsy store? That kind of thing. I make these. I came up with the idea, and I'm sure somebody else somewhere has done something similar, but this was my idea. And they come in either 1, 2, or 3 holes, though I've made a couple custom ones. A lady right now wants 4 holes, and I can make that happen. I just have to reconfigure things a little bit. And I've had other people want ink boxes on both sides. I've had others use, well, I use the archival ink pads, and so they wanted a little bit longer, and I can absolutely do that. It's just, my store is sold out right now, and it's partly been I have not had time to ship anything. So as soon as I've got the weather cooperates and I've had a little bit more time, I will make more and I will put them in my Etsy shop and I will let you know when they do. The cost on these, it was $20, $25, and $30, and then shipping. Well, shipping has gone up and wood prices have gone up. So I'll have to figure out, I don't want to be unfair to anyone, so I'll have to figure out what the new prices will be based on current market materials. I won't charge anything different for my time, but I will keep that posted as soon as I've got these ready to go. And just be aware that I know that I've gifted or certain people have bought this and then they find out it's not for them, and it's not for everybody. Some people like their tools and such and their glues a little organized differently, which is personal preference. It works well for me, and that's why I use it, and that's why I make it for others, because though I did give directions, if you've got somebody in your life who's handy, you can follow those directions and make any of the 1, 2, or 3 holes. But if you don't have power tools and saws and stuff, it would be really difficult. And I did it this depth. These are 3/4 inch plywood, and I did it this way on purpose. So when this sits like this, it's flat or flush with the top. And when I take my top off, when I'm sitting here working, I put it like this so that when I put a stamp pad on there, I mean, obviously with my dauber, it doesn't make any difference, but I can use this as a stamp pad too for background stamping. And that's why it's the depth that it is. All right, that's that. Another question I had, and I think this is one of the last ones, my bin system. Why I have my bin system the way I do. Well, 1, because I like old tins, and 2, because it's just kind of fun. And I have them sorted. Now these are what I call scrap clusters, and they're done. They're completed scrap clusters. I can just come in here and pick it up, and it's ready to go on top of anything, a journaling card, a gift card, any kind of embellishment that I want. Now, these aren't the only embellishments, obviously, but these are completed scrap clusters. And these are scrap clusters at various stages. So maybe I've put the pieces together, but I haven't sewn it yet or put lace on it, or I haven't put the top on. And sometimes I'll wait to do that until I've got a journal or a project or an item in mind. Like this one's obviously a lot longer. That doesn't go in there. These are all clusters that need something else, whether it's a die cut or a stamp or a tag or a card or a label, a Tracy label or whatever. These all need something else. So those are 2 of my bins and how I use them. These are die cuts, and these are almost all embossed or something, just because I like it. Now I've got a couple plain black ones in here, and I'll show you. I really like, oh gosh, I probably out of frame. I am so sorry. I really like having some solid color unfinished, but most of mine are die cut and then embossed because that's what I like. So I keep my die cuts like that. And then somebody asked how I use the ones that are either broken bits, and I'll show you that when I show you some of my completed ones. All right, and then I've got, this is my happy thing right now. This is all the scraps I've got currently left. That's it. I've been having a challenge to myself to use up my scraps, and this is all I've got left, and I have some plans for those. So that's kind of a happy thing for me. These are pieces that are partially completed, so this should have gone in here. So this booklet needs some decoration or something. This isn't a booklet, it is a booklet. See, so it's a booklet and it's mostly ready to go, but not quite. It needs some finishing. So kind of like my work in progress. All of these need a little something, whether it's glossy accents or a tag or a label or some kind of an embellishment. You know, like here, this is partial. This is probably a pocket or something, but it's not quite completed. So that's what this one is. So if I've got something that I need a very specific color for, I can pull from my blanks and just add the finishing touch. So that's what this one is. And then I showed you my scraps. And then these are my completed bins. This is one, and this one's I've been working on for a while, and this is a couple inches thick, and there is a whole bunch of stuff in there. And so, and they're everything. They're envelopes, they're folds, they're tucks, they're journaling spots, there's notepads, there's Tracy Two Sides, there's the paper clips, there's, you name it, on my Scrap Busters list, and it's in here. I know, here's a simple journaling card, but these are completed pieces. And why, Corey, do you need so many completed pieces? Well, that brings me to my next thing. I've been working on clearing out my scraps, and yeah, I have a good organized system, but at the same time, I have a lot of scraps. So my challenge, because I know I'm not the only person that plays let's make a deal with myself. So I promised myself, so if you clear out, you know, because I had a big bin of scraps, if you make it down to a reasonable bin, because you've always got to have some scraps to pull from, you just have to. If I make it a reasonable one, then I can reward myself with playing with Tracy's next video when she posts it. And Gail Augustinelli has recently posted 2 videos that I'm dying to try. She did this tracing paper with scraps, and that's one of the reasons I saved some of those. This tracing paper collage things, and she used stamps and ink and paper and number labels, and I'm probably forgetting something. Anyways, just a bunch of scraps, and it looked like a whole lot of fun. And then she did these little clusters with book print and lace and doily and something else, and then a stamped image, a neutral stamped image, and she sewed around it. And I really want to do those too because it looked like fun. So in order to be able to play with those and do those, I promised myself I'd get my scraps under control. And then what I did is something I've had in the works for way too long are something that I call scrap cluster books. And obviously this one isn't finished. I'll get a die cut and such and put it on the front. But the idea with these is there will be lace bits here. There's a scrap pad here. There will be die cut envelope in here with various dies, and in the back there will be labels and maybe stamped images or other things that I use when I make my clusters, right? And so sometimes people say, well, I don't know which scraps to use. I don't know. So it'll be a fundraiser when I finish these up, and I will sell them as scrap cluster kits, and then, you know, whatever price it is, and I'll pop it in the mail, and then you have everything you need to make scrap clusters. You'll have the little bits of lace that you can cut off. You'll have pieces of paper that work together or coordinate together to make the clusters. You'll have, you know, a die cut or an image or a label or a couple labels or what have you. You'll be able to do that if you choose to. So that's what these are for. And then one of the things I did with all of those, with some of those scraps, is I made the scrap pads that are going inside. And then each one's a little different. None of them are the same, but they all have some kind of a texture and dimension. They've got some kind of a book print. They've got color. They've got cardstock. They've got music. They've got, you know, just the different things that we use when we make collage, or scrap clusters or collage clusters or whatever you want to call it. So that took up a whole lot of scraps, and I will get those put together one of these days. So that is one of the things I made with the scraps. Another thing is I just literally challenged myself to use what I had in my scrap bin. And I had a piece of transparency and this, so I made a journal cover. I only made one, but I made a journal cover just using my scraps. And then this is what I wanted to show you real quick. Different ways, like this was a die cut that was broken. And it was interesting, 17 December is mine and my husband's anniversary, though that we got married 75 years after that. But these are just pieces of die cut that broke off when I was coloring them, and I still use those scraps. I mean, they're still usable. And so, what did I make with my scraps? Well, okay, I made a couple of those, and these are the wish seeds. It's just a journaling card or a pocket or a tuck spot, what have you, and this was the remainder of a Tim Holtz negative space, and I'm not going to tell you each and every one because you don't care. But so this would be a journaling card or a pocket, or I could even use it as the front of a little mini journal because I like making small journals. So these are just some of the things that I made with scraps. I allowed myself to use my scrap. You've seen it, the little itty bitty scrap drawer. I mean, I have a bigger basket too, but these are just the little itty bitty scraps. And everything in here was done using those. And look, see, I still have a ton left. And scrap pieces. And I did allow myself some washi, and that was another question, and I'll scroll for just a second. Somebody asked me what the bell was and why I had it on my desk. Well, two reasons. One, it was my grandmother's, and my grandmother collected several bells, and this is the only one I have left. But also when I'm actually working, I don't keep my washi out all the time, but it does a great job for holding washi. So that's what the bell's for. Okay, but I allowed myself to use labels, and I allowed myself to use the die cut bin, and everything else was scraps. Now, one of the things I'm going to do hopefully tomorrow is the two videos that Gail did. I want to follow along with her, and I want to follow along with Tracy if she makes another video. And the other thing I want to do is I have 2 full bins of these stamps, postage stamps. I use postage stamps. And I want to save the ones that are attached to envelope, but I have a whole lot that are blank. And I want to do some collage pages with stamps. I saw it somewhere, and I apologize that I don't remember who showed it. And I'm sure a lot of people have done it. But I want to make some collage pages because I want to narrow it down to 1 bin. So that's on the tomorrow too. But, you know, I had a whole stack of little pieces paper clipped together for notepads. I bet I had 30 of those, and I challenged myself to use all those little notepads. So you'll see a lot of these are notepads. I don't always make that many notepads, but a lot of these are notepads. Again, this was just a piece of broken die cut. All kinds of, you don't want to see them all, of fun little bits and things. And these are what I make. This is just one of those over the pocket pieces, you know, with broken die cut. I just thought these were really cool. I don't even know where I got those German stamps, but it worked really well on that little notepad. So this whole bin is made in the last few days, full of little bits from scraps. And why, Corey, do you have so many? Well, part of the reason was I really enjoy making them. But also, when I get back to it, I will do... it was 2 for $5, but postage is about $1. Ranges between 75 cents and $1.20 to mail an envelope with these because they have to be hand canceled because they're too bulky. So when I do another fundraiser for my students and their books, I'll do 2 for $6, and so these will be pieces that go in there in the 2 for $6, you know, and plus the other ones. So all of these items, and you know, because I couldn't make 50 journals and use them all. Well, I could, but anyway, my point is that they will be used at some point. Oh, this was, see, just a little bit of stamps. This was stamped paper, and so I put a stamp on top, just a little bitty notepad. So that's all these are. And the other thing I did was I had some strips. I like to stamp on these too, like Gail does. But I had some strips that were just a little too narrow for stamping, and I had a bunch of them. And so what I did is I just wove them together, and then I sewed them. And I'll cut them out and make journaling cards, or maybe I'll make a cover. But I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun. And I used up a whole lot of scraps that way. So there's that. All right. I think last thing. Yeah. stamps. I stamped a whole bunch of, I used my scrap paper also, like many others, to stamp. And I'll double layer stamp. And so some of them you can see here. Oh, I know why I pulled this out so I can show you. See, these are embossed after they've been stamped. I do them in steps, just like I do everything else. And the embossing is the last step. So here you can see these two, probably notepads because I have a whole lot of notepads. These two are glazed with Seth Apter Vintage Beeswax glaze. Do I have one that's, oh, here we go. This, here you go. These are glazed. I've heat embossed these. And you can see it was all the same pen, all the same color, but different papers will give you different looks. And here it is unembossed. So you can see the difference next to each other. See if you can see it. And sometimes I want it flat and unembossed, and sometimes I want it embossed so that you can see there. That's what this bin's for. And here that's true on this one as well. So here I just used my pen to color the stamp, and then I used a number stamp. I think that one's Carrie from Which Craft Do You Do? And then here, same basic thing, but this one is embossed with Seth Apter Vintage Beeswax, and this one is just plain. So you can see the difference in the color. Exact same pens, but you can see how it changes the color and such on that. So that's what that's for. All right, I think that is it. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but oh yes, I am forgetting one thing. I apparently live under a rock. I had a couple people comment about Junk Journal January, and I had no idea what it was because I only watch a few channels, and not because I don't love a variety of people, but because I squirrel, and it's clear that I squirrel. And if I allow myself to watch a whole bunch of junk journalers, then I would never get anything done and I would get off track. But anyway, I found, so if you haven't followed him or don't follow him, and it's fascinating. It seems to me that it's more art journal, junk journaling, but maybe I'm wrong. I haven't looked at everybody's. But Junk Journal January, and I want to say it's hosted by two people that I don't know very well, or I don't know. I think Meg's Journals is one of them, and Helen Coleman was another. But there are people that we do know, like Rachel from Foxy Creations. I don't watch her videos, even though I think she's fabulous. And Joey DeFee, and I don't want to butcher it, 49 Dragonflies, and so there's a whole bunch of people. So if you haven't followed it or looked into it, please do, because what a great way to celebrate what we do and the people who inspire and encourage us. All right, I think that was everything, and oh gosh, 30 minutes. It was supposed to be super quick, but that's kind of how I roll. And I will keep sharing them when I have ideas. I will be happy to share those with you. And thank you for all the wishes that get well wishes. I am COVID negative and just pneumonia, and it's getting much better. It's been over a week now, so I'm really ready to be done with this. All right, take care all, and happy creating.